You tighten your grip around a wooden spear. Across the open grassland, another group is watching you. They look almost exactly like you. They have families. They have children. They have fire. But today, they are not neighbors. They are a threat. If you survive the next few minutes, your family eats. If you fail, your blood disappears into the dirt, leaving almost no trace for anyone to find 20,000 years later. Most people imagine prehistoric humans fighting like movie characters. Loud, chaotic, brutal. The archaeological evidence suggests something different. For most of human history, there were no swords, no shields made of steel, no armor, no horses, no castles, not even metal. Yet our ancestors managed to spread across 6 continents while competing with predators, harsh climates, and sometimes, each other. Some of the oldest signs of organized human violence are more than 13,000 years old. At a cemetery near Jebel Sahaba along the Nile Valley in modern Sudan, archaeologists uncovered dozens of skeletons bearing stone projectile injuries. Many individuals had multiple embedded stone points. Some appeared to have survived earlier attacks before dying from later ones. Violence was not an exception. It may have been a recurring part of survival. And once you understand how prehistoric humans fought without a single piece of metal, you begin to see that the greatest weapon was never the spear itself. It was the human brain. Around 500,000 years ago, something began changing inside the bodies of your ancestors. They were becoming endurance hunters. Research led by evolutionary biologist Daniel Lieberman has shown that humans evolved unusually long legs, elastic tendons, large gluteal muscles, and remarkable heat regulation through sweating. These traits were not designed for explosive speed. They were designed for lasting longer than almost anything else. A healthy lion can sprint over 80 kilometers per hour. You cannot. But a lion cannot maintain that speed for long. You can keep moving for hours. This ability transformed hunting. It also transformed conflict. A fight between prehistoric groups was rarely about charging directly into another line of people. It often became a contest of endurance. Who could keep moving? Who could keep tracking? Who could outlast everyone else? The strongest person was not always the most dangerous. Sometimes the most dangerous person was simply the last one still standing. But endurance alone could not protect you. You still needed weapons. Except those weapons looked almost invisible today. In 1995, archaeologists excavating the site of Skåningen in Germany uncovered something extraordinary. 8 wooden spears. They were approximately 300,000 years old. Until then, many researchers believed sophisticated wooden weapons appeared much later. The Skåningen spears changed that assumption completely. Each spear measured roughly 2 to 2.5 meters in length. Each was carefully carved from spruce trunks. The balance point sat near the front, almost identical to modern competitive javelins. These were not sharpened sticks picked up from the forest floor. They were engineered. Experimental archaeologists later recreated the spears and tested them. Thrown by trained athletes, they could travel over 70 kilometers per hour. That is enough to kill large animals. It is also enough to kill another human. Wood almost never survives for hundreds of thousands of years. Stone survives. That means the archaeological record probably hides thousands of lost wooden weapons that simply decayed. The world of prehistoric combat was likely far more technologically advanced than the surviving evidence suggests. But even the sharpest spear had one weakness. You had to get close. Sometimes dangerously close. So humans invented something even more important. Distance. But here's where it gets stranger. Distance changed everything. A weapon that could reach an enemy before they reached you created a completely new kind of survival problem. You no longer needed to be the strongest person in the group. You needed accuracy. You needed patience. You needed coordination. Around 40,000 years ago, humans began producing some of the earliest known advanced projectile technology. At sites across Europe, archaeologists have discovered carefully shaped stone points, bone tools, and hunting equipment connected to Upper Paleolithic humans. One important example comes from Ksar Akil in modern Lebanon, where archaeologists found evidence of early human tool production dating back more than 35,000 years. These tools reveal something important. Your ancestors were not simply fighting with random rocks and sticks. They were designing systems. A stone point attached to a wooden shaft was not just an object. It was a decision. A decision about distance. A decision about survival. A decision about how to defeat something larger and stronger than yourself. In 1977, archaeologist John Shea began studying prehistoric projectile technology to understand how ancient humans hunted. His research showed that stone points from different periods were not just cutting tools. Many were designed specifically for being attached to shafts. This mattered because a thrown spear changed the entire battlefield. A person holding a club had to enter striking distance. A person holding a spear could attack while staying away. The invention of the projectile weapon created the first true advantage of strategy over strength. A smaller group could defeat a larger one. A younger hunter could threaten an older, stronger opponent. A coordinated group could survive against enemies with greater numbers. But prehistoric humans did not fight alone. The most powerful weapon they had was something no animal possessed at the same level. Cooperation. At Nataruk, near Lake Turkana in Kenya, archaeologists discovered one of the oldest known examples of prehistoric group violence. The site dates to approximately 10,000 years ago. The remains of 27 individuals were found. Several skeletons showed injuries consistent with violent attacks. One individual had stone fragments embedded in their skull. Another had evidence of severe trauma. The discovery, published in 2016 by archaeologist Marta Mirazon-Lar and her team, challenged the idea that organized violence only appeared after farming and cities. Humans could organize conflict before civilization. Before kings. Before armies. Before metal. But this raises a deeper question: why would people risk their lives fighting at all? The answer was often not about conquest. It was about resources. Water. Food. Safe land. Access to migration routes. A small hunter-gatherer group depended on its environment. A dry season could remove a water source. A disappearing animal population could threaten survival. A neighboring group could become competition. And when survival itself was at stake, even simple weapons became powerful. But there was another problem. Humans were not fighting against humans only. They were surrounded by animals that were stronger, faster, and sometimes more dangerous. For thousands of years, prehistoric humans shared landscapes with enormous predators. In Europe, Neanderthals lived alongside cave lions, wolves, and cave bears. At Shanidar Cave in Iraq, researchers have found evidence of Neanderthal occupation dating between approximately 65,000 and 35,000 years ago. The site shows that Neanderthals survived in an environment filled with dangerous animals. They did not have metal blades. They did not have firearms. They survived through planning. Stone tools. Fire. Group cooperation. A lone human was vulnerable. A group of humans was something different. 10 people with spears could create a threat even a large predator had to respect. This same principle applied when humans encountered other human groups. The advantage was not always the sharpest weapon. It was the ability to work together. But cooperation created another challenge. How do you organize a group when everyone is carrying simple weapons? How do you decide when to attack? When to retreat? When to trust another person? The answer reveals something unexpected about the first human conflicts. They were not won by weapons alone. They were won by communication. And that changed the meaning of fighting forever. A weapon can hurt. But a plan can win. The final advantage prehistoric humans had was not made from stone, bone, or wood. It was invisible. Information. Long before writing existed, humans were already passing knowledge from one generation to another. Where animals moved. Where water could be found. Which plants were dangerous. Which enemies were nearby. Which paths were safe. Around 100,000 years ago, evidence from sites like Blombo's cave in South Africa shows that humans were creating symbolic objects and using complex communication. A successful attack required more than weapons. It required timing. It required signals. It required trust. A person throwing a spear at the wrong moment could expose the entire group. A person watching the wrong direction could allow danger to approach. Survival depended on hundreds of small decisions happening together. By the late Stone Age, humans were becoming experts at combining technology with teamwork. At sites across Europe and Africa, archaeologists have found evidence of specialized tools created for different purposes. Some points were designed for hunting. Some blades were designed for cutting. Some tools were shaped for processing materials. This specialization shows something important. Humans were not simply reacting to danger. They were preparing for it. A wolf has claws. A bear has strength. A snake has venom. Humans had preparation. Around 12,000 years ago, the world began changing. The last ice age was ending. Climate patterns shifted. Many hunter-gatherer groups started adapting to new environments. At this time, conflicts became more visible in the archaeological record. Sites like Jebel Sahaba show that violence could involve multiple people and repeated encounters. But the story is more complicated than simple warfare. For most of human existence, people lived in small groups where cooperation was essential. A human enemy was also another human being who understood fear, hunger, and survival. Conflict existed. But so did negotiation. Sharing. Exchange. Movement. The same species that could create weapons also created alliances. The strange truth about prehistoric combat is that metal was never the reason humans became successful. Metal weapons appeared only about 5,000 years ago in some regions. But humans had already survived for more than 300,000 years using wood, stone, bone, and intelligence. A sharpened stick was useful. A stone point was powerful. But the ability to imagine the future was the real breakthrough. You could imagine where an animal would go. You could imagine where an enemy would move. You could imagine a better tool before it existed. That ability separated humans from almost every other creature on Earth. Today, you rarely think about the weapons hidden inside your own biology. Your hands are still shaped by thousands of generations of toolmakers. Your eyes still search for patterns. Your brain still predicts danger before it arrives. The conflicts of ancient humans were fought with simple materials. But behind every wooden spear was a complicated mind. A mind that could plan. A mind that could cooperate. A mind that could survive. The first human weapon was never the stone in your hand. It was the thought that came before it.